Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon and good evening. We're very fortunate to have people from all parts of the world today, and I think we've got a record attendance as well. So, as I say, today's webinar, we're going to be talking about our hospitality solutions and how you can transform your business whilst reducing costs. On the agenda today, we're going to be talking about a little bit about Sangoma, not too much, and then what are the changes in hospitality that are currently affecting, so what are the telephony changes that are impacting hospitality? We'll look a little bit about our solutions. We'll show you how some actual hotels around the world have solved their problems, and we'll just give you a quick summary. Importantly, don't forget to ask the questions, submit them in the toolbar. We will have a copy of the recording and the presentation for you. The one thing I've forgotten to do, for those of you who know us very well, we always do a little weather report from Wokingham, our international HQ. And right now, it's a little bit cloudy, but the sun's out and it's not too cold in the UK. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about Sangoma today and who we are and what we do. We are a global company, HQs in Canada, and we've been around since 1984. So, we've got a good track record and stuff. Financials are very healthy, and, we really look after our cash flow. We've got great industry accolades, particularly from the Gartner Magic Quadrant, which we'll talk about in a minute. That 2.7 million figure's probably gone up by now for the number of people using our solutions. And talking of Magic Quadrant, just move the slide forward. So last year was our 9th year that we've been in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for UCaaS, Unified Communications as a Service. They're really, one of the few vendors that we've got an overall solution. We can deliver the complete stack. We do everything you need to have a full telephony solution. So, from the desk phones, the headsets, the UC itself, gateways, you name it, we do it. And yeah, as I say, we've been around for a long time. So I'm just having trouble moving my slide. If you bear with me for 1 second. Thank you. Yes, so it looks like the internet's a little bit slow over in the UK today. It's so as I said, with Sangoma, we give you more options than most vendors. We're probably one of the only vendors to offer you multiple choice. So with UC, Unified Comms, you choose how you want to deploy it. Do you want it cloud? Do you want it premise? Do you want it virtualized, hybrid? Whatever you choose, the user will get the same experience. Everything is identical. Do you want to buy it? Do you want to rent it? Do you want to lease it? Again, what's right for your business? Do you want CapEx, OpEx, you name it, we can do it for you. And if there's something you don't see on that list, then come and talk to us. I'm sure we can manage that one as well. We have really happy customers, as you can see with our Fairview Hotel, which we'll dig into a little bit deeper in a minute. I'm trying to think, and I think at this point, I'm probably going to hand over to my colleague, Simon Horton, who's going to take you through a bit more detail about our solutions for hospitality and so forth. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you, Shan. It's great to see so many people on this webinar, right? It's very exciting to see that we've got this really interesting, interest in the hospitality sector. I've got a few sections in my slides to talk about. I'm going to talk about the challenges that are impacting hospitality. That's the next few slides. I'm going to talk about the solutions that can fix some of those challenges, drill into some of the Sangoma specific solutions, and then finish with a couple of case studies at the end before we get into the Q&A, which is always the part I enjoy the most, right? I enjoy answering all of your questions when they come up and being set a challenge, so that's all good. So the first challenge I want to talk about is the phones in the rooms. And I think all of us recognize that we're not using the room phones in hotels anymore. We pull out our mobile and we use that instead, which means the hotel is missing out on the revenue. Do you remember the days of having exorbitant call charges and data charges for doing any work or calling home when you're in a hotel? I certainly do, and I'm glad those days are over. But of course, for the hotel, that means that they are losing revenue streams. So they see the room phones now as a bit of a loss leader. And of course, you still need them though to order room service. Maybe you need to make an emergency call if you drop your cell phone down the toilet or something. In some jurisdictions, there's a legislative requirement to have a phone in the room. To get 4 or 5 stars in some jurisdictions, you need to have a phone in the room. And sometimes, like the bigger resort hotels, deliver voicemails, mass voicemails to phones to advise of upcoming events. Or there's a Zumba class in the pool at 10 a.m., whatever that might be. So yes, the phones aren't making the hotels direct revenue anymore, but they're still for sure an important part of the whole kind of overall hotel experience. The next big thing is the aging infrastructure. So we see through and we've done loads and loads of hotels now, we see a lot of hotels we go into and they've got really old, cruddy, aging PBXs that are on-prem, stuffed in the basement in a server room, right? And typically they can be very expensive line rental, some mainly through ISDN connections. You pay a very high monthly fee for each call path you need. The call charges on top of that line rental can be very expensive as well through again ISDN. You know, with a typical old school PBX, they're pretty feature barren, right? You can't do any of the unified communications. You can't do presence or video sharing or any of that stuff that allows you to really get productivity out of your staff. Probably that hardware has been installed for 20 years and it's beginning to fail, and it's expensive to maintain, expensive to fix when it does go wrong. Lacking of cool features like call center, so your inbound calls are not getting handled very, very effectively. The maintenance contracts can be very long and very expensive, so that's never good either. And upgrading can also be difficult. If you expand the hotel, it can be quite hard to add more rooms to a typical old school PBX. So what is the way forward? We kind of see change your infrastructure and base it on VoIP, and that will address all those problems we saw earlier. So around the cost savings, you get better features, better reliability, better capabilities. And really, we're kind of seeing 3 main ways that hotels are upgrading. You can keep your existing room phones. So if you've got analog or proprietary room phones, you can keep those and use a gateway and bring them into a UC system. Then you can replace or you can replace your physical PBX with an on-prem PBX, on-prem UC system rather, or you can replace that existing physical PBX with something in the cloud. Those are the options. And what we'll do now is dig into the solutions for each of those options. So of course, I think we've talked about a lot of this, but why do we need to keep room phones? If you need to make an emergency call, it's easier to do it on a room phone, to dial 112 or 999 or 911 in the States. And talking of the States, there's actually a thing called carriage law, which is the fact that you have to be able to pick up any phone and dial an emergency number, regardless of whether that phone's provisioned or not. So even if no one happens to be staying in that room, if somebody gets into that room somehow, they need to be able to call an emergency, make an emergency phone call. Then there's phones that are in a fixed location, like a lobby, a swimming pool, or a lift, or something like that, or an elevator. They need to be serviceable as well, and you don't want to put an IP phone there, perhaps. Of course, if you change the big thing here is if you change the analog room phones for IP phones, there's a lot of cabling needs doing, right? Because typically most old school analog phones you find in hotels have got only a copper pair going to them, right? To get technical for a minute. And of course, an Ethernet cable, you need 4 or 6 or 8 individual strands going to that. So you need to do a load of recabling. And that means ripping the walls apart, putting cabling in, replastering. It's a huge upheaval and very expensive. So we see that a lot of people just think, we'll keep using our existing room phones. So how do you do that? How do you keep a room phone and bring that into a UC or a VoIP or an IP environment? Well, you use a thing called a Vega Gateway, which is the option on the left with the orange diagram. And what this does, it effectively makes your analog phone appear like an IP phone to the hosted cloud UC system or to the on-prem UC or VoIP system. And it means you don't have to do anything in the rooms at all. The cabling all stays the same, and then instead of wiring that phone directly into the PBX in the basement, you wire it into a Vega Gateway. The Vega Gateway does the conversion job from analog into IP, and hey presto, you've managed to connect that to an IP PBX or a UC system. Right, so that's dealt with the room phones. The other option is keep your room phones as well, keep your existing PBX as well, but instead of using an expensive ISDN connection to get calls in and out from and to the outside world, you use a SIP gateway, a VoIP gateway, to convert from ISDN towards SIP, and that's the right-hand side or the gray diagram. So here the PBX still in effect thinks it's connected to the ISDN network, but actually the ISDN network only goes as far as the gateway, and the gateway is doing the conversion from ISDN to SIP and then sending it into a SIP network. And this has huge advantages that SIP is much less expensive than ISDN. So typically the line rental is 0 or near 0. The call charges are often much lower. So you can save an absolute ton of money through using this approach as well. And again, we've seen this done in hundreds of hotels, particularly in the United States, where we take an old existing Mitel or Ericsson or Alcatel, Nortel, something like that. We put a gateway in front of it, and hey presto, we're now connected to SIP, and the hotel can save a bundle of money. So that's really how do we keep our room phones. In the case of upgrading to unified comms, so now if you want to rip out the heart of the system, the PBX, what do you do here? Well, the first option is maybe you want to keep your UC on premise. So of course you can replace your on premise old school PBX with a new unified comms on premise. So it's a CapEx, capital expenditure, but you get full control over it, right? You have a piece of tin, it's treated as an asset, it's in the basement. Typically hotels don't have that much churn. Room 101 is going to be room 101 for the next 10 years, so it doesn't require a huge amount of maintenance. But you get a lot of benefits of UC. So the staff can use VoIP phones, IP phones, rather than the analog phones they have today. So you can do call recording, you get mobile clients, you can queue incoming calls, you can change individual voice prompts, and then on top of that, you can also combine with the earlier slide, so you can still keep your room phones, or you can replace your room phones with IP. Alternatively, you can go fully into the cloud. And typically when you move your telephony engine to the cloud, to UC cloud, it's an OpEx. So instead of a capital expenditure, you're paying monthly, a predictable monthly payment for your service. And typically it would be a SIP service, and you'd get a bundle of minutes. You get a few thousand minutes included in a pretty cost-effective bundle. The great thing about cloud is somebody else has to manage it for you, whether that's the provider or a reseller. Someone's managing it for you. You don't have to worry about upgrading it. It's all done. If you need to expand it because you're a hotel, you build an extension on the hotel, it's easy to expand. Again, similar to the last slide, you gain pretty much the same set of cool features that enable better productivity for the staff, better experience, customer experience, user experience for the for the customers or guests calling into the system as well. So I hope that gives you a flavor of the kind of solutions that you can have. And what I wanted to drill into now is specifically on Sangoma and how we can help you to address the solutions and the challenges that we have. So before I get into that, I just wanted to kind of lay out very clearly what the options are. The top one, keep everything. So you SIP enable your existing solution. It's the lowest cost, offers the fewest features. You're effectively putting a gateway in front of the PBX and keeping everything in place. The next step up would be keep the room phones, but replace the PBX with a unified comms, and that unified comms doesn't really matter whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. So you're no need to recable the room phone. So that's the kind of next step up. The final big bang approach is change everything. So now we're changing the PBX by using on cloud or on cloud or in cloud or on-prem. But now we're also changing out the room phones and putting IP phones in all of those rooms. So this is big bang. This is typically what would happen if you're building a new hotel, right? You wouldn't typically, if building a new hotel, put analog phones in rooms. You'd put IP phones in every room, run a Cat5 cable, an Ethernet cable to every room, and then put your UC engine, the switching engine, either hosted or on-prem. Okay, so that's hopefully cleared up the option. So what gateways do we have available to us, and what advantages are there with Sangoma gateways? So the top section is analog gateways. As I said, these convert room phones to look like IP phones. We have everything from 4 to 50 ports. They're pretty dense, right? You can get 50 ports in a 1U chassis. Again, we can use them with on-prem or cloud. The cool thing here is you can drive 8 kilometers. So you can put a phone 8 kilometers away from where the gateway is located. And this is really cool for resort hotels where you've got cabins or rooms that are out on the beach, or perhaps you've got a gatehouse on the edge of the site and it's 5 miles or 8 kilometers away. The gateway can reach that far, right? So you don't need to worry about rewiring or microwave point to point or anything like that. You can just use the gateways to bring those analog phones into the UC estate. The digital gateways, this is for SIP enabling existing PBX, which is the picture on the lower right. We've got digital E1 T1 gateways, 30 to 120 ports for E1, 2 or 4 ports for BRI or basic rate. And these are all Vega gateways. We spent a long time doing this. They're very mature. They're very easy to set up. They're very price competitive. They're feature rich and stable, right? We've been doing this for a long time. So I have no worries about deploying these. And we've sold hundreds, if not thousands of these to hotels all around the world. One of the big, slightly techie, I must admit, advantages of Vega gateways is this thing called ENP, which stands for Enhanced Network Proxy. And basically what this does, if the worst should happen, and either you lose an internet connection, so you can no longer make calls out to the outside world, or maybe your VoIP provider, God forbid, has a problem and their system goes down. What ENP does is allows calls to carry on. So you can still do room-to-room calls. The staff can call a room if there's a problem. The rooms can call the staff in the reception area, say, hey, I've got a problem. And then the other cool thing is if there is a spare PSTN connection or perhaps a 5G connection, a wireless connection, ENP can also enable outbound calls as well. So if there is some kind of a problem in the hotel, you still need to call the police because someone's cut the internet connection, you can still do that using ENP. And it's really cool because ENP is a no-cost option on all Vega gateways. And in a little while, a few slides time, I have got a case study where hopefully I can kind of help you understand how ENP works on a Vega. So that's Vega gateways. Moving on to our UC products, we've got a couple of main products for this audience, which is Switchbox and PBxact. And they kind of have the same, top line features, but they approach it very differently. Switchbox is kind of scalable, flexible platform. It really concentrates on simplicity, and I don't mean simplicity in a feature sense, but simplicity of how it is configured and managed. PBxact is actually based on something called Free PBX, which is an open source platform. PBxact is super flexible, but that flexibility brings some complexity, right? And it's a little bit harder to manage, but you can do anything with this thing, right? It's a Swiss Army knife, if you will, of features and customization. They all work just fine with our Vega gateways. You can even manage the gateway from inside the web UI of some of these platforms. They're very feature rich, web-based interface, 24/7 support if you need it, and all the rest of it. They also both include contact center functionality. And when I say contact center, I always worry about you guys in the audience thinking of a kind of sweatshop somewhere with 100 people packed into it, all answering the phone. And it's really not what I'm thinking of here. What I'm thinking of is a departmental or informal contact center. And if you look at the lower right, blue box, what's a contact center? I think every hotel takes inbound calls, and really what we're saying for a contact center is give your guests or your potential guests phoning in the best possible experience by handling their call in the best possible way. Multi-level, multilingual, multi-level IVRs, music on hold, the queuing function, so you can make sure the caller is getting to the right place, the right person. Agents can log in and log out from anywhere. So really cool features to, if you just want to log into a queue because someone's popped out for lunch, you can do that without having to take calls after that. So there's some loads of cool features around contact centers. And of course, no contact center is complete, or no UC solution is complete without IP phones. And Sangoma has a really nice range of IP phones, from something called the P310, which is the kind of phone you put in a lobby or a swimming pool, very cost effective, but pretty simple, but cost effective, all the way up to a P370, which is a touch screen phone, which looks really cool. And the big wigs, the execs in companies love this, the P370. All of our phones, the great thing is, because we make the UC solution and we make the phones, they work beautifully together, right? The auto provisioning's amazing. It just works. And we can build a load of apps into the phone that perhaps other vendors, would love to have, but can't manage because they don't own both ends of the system. So voicemail, call queues, how you get in and out of those queues I just talked about is really funky on these phones. And you may not think of Sangoma as being famous for IP phones, but we're on our third generation now. We really know our stuff. We've sold more than 1 million phones, which I think is impressive. And it's all of our own designs. It's our own plastic, our own firmware, and that allows us a bit of, we can be nimble. We can fix stuff when we need to, and we don't have to wait for anybody else because we're not dependent on any kind of OEM or any kind of manufacturing agreement. This is all under our control and our manufacturing. Now, this is a super important part as well, is the Sangoma soft clients. So all of our UC platforms include the soft clients in the basic price. And what this is a client that runs on your Android or iOS smartphone, or on your laptop. Your Windows or Mac laptop can run on anything in between, right? Like tablets, for instance. But you basically take your desktop with you. So when you're, as for the staff in particular, if your desk phone rings, then if you want to configure it that way, then your application on your smartphone will also ring. So you can take your desktop and work wherever you want to be. And the cool thing is, you don't have to ever give away your private mobile number, which I think is the #1 advantage here. So instead of having to give your mobile number to potential clients calling in, you can just let them call your desk extension, and hey, your Windows or your iOS phone will ring just like you are sitting at your desk, even though you could be sitting in a coffee shop or even on the beach, which is cool. And the way that you configure these things to ring, and the way you configure them through the UC system, through your own individual switchboard, and it's very easy to get installed through some QR codes on the web interface of the UC device. So really, we try and make because we own everything, we try and make everything very simple to do. So let's talk about the case studies, and I have 3 of these to guide you through, and hopefully we can go through them together and make you and help you understand what our solutions enable. So the first one is we call minimal upheaval, and this was with the Marriott Hotel, a huge hotel chain all around the world. It was delivered with 14 IP, who's one of our resellers in the hospitality industry. These hotels, this was actually one of the ones in the south of England. They didn't have a budget for recabling all the rooms, so they wanted to leverage their room phones. They wanted 14IP have a cloud solution in place. They wanted to leverage the 14IP cloud-based solution, which happens to be based on BroadSoft. The issue was there was a single fiber into this hotel. So if somebody in a digger or JCB or something dug through that cable whilst they were doing some work on the road, that hotel was effectively offline, had no telephony and no ability for anybody to call the police or the ambulance or fire station, which is obviously not a good position to be in. So the solution for these guys, Marriott, was they used a Vega Gateway. So they threw in, I think, 9 Vega gateways to talk to, each with 50 ports to convert the 450 rooms into effectively to look like IP phones. No cabling required, no nothing, right? So they just did the conversion by putting the gateways in. But they used this thing I mentioned earlier called ENP. And what happens is ENP is busy monitoring the connection to the cloud. And if it sees that connection disappearing, it takes over the routing of the calls. And of course, you lose a little bit of features here, but gosh, being able to make a simple call, from the room to the staff to the room to reassure people, or if something even worse happens, staff can call out to the police or whoever they need to call, make an emergency service call to. So this was really good that we managed to protect all of these 450 rooms, and then they called out through a spare FXO port or a spare analog port that they had, and all the rooms work. This was a few years ago now, but it's still in place today. The ENP didn't cost them any extra, gave them resilience for all of their rooms, and we did a lot of design work to make this happen. So we spent a long time, pre-sales engineers, sales engineering at Sangoma spent a long time with 14IP and the Marriott IT people to make sure this solution worked. We went as far as unplugging the internet connection to do actual real-time testing. So beautiful solution that works really nicely. The next one was something quite similar, but here they wanted the benefits of UC without new phones. And this was a hotel in the Dominican Republic in the Caribbean. Lovely hotel based right on the beach. Again, they didn't want to cable each room, but they did want, because they couldn't, it was a resort hotel. I think there was lots of cables under the ground going to these lovely cabins on the beach there. They needed easy management. They needed integration with their existing PMS, which is property management system. So what do these guys do? They took PBxact, which I talked about earlier, is one of our UC solutions, very customizable. And they obviously put Vega gateways in to connect to all their existing room phones. The cool part about this solution is inside PBxact, you can actually manage those Vega gateways directly. So you don't need to browse to each Vega and manage them individually. You can manage them all from within the PBxact web view, which is really cool. And this is a huge advantage to people, because instead of having to go and manage maybe 4 or 5 different gateways, they can just manage everything from inside one web view. So that was a really good advantage. And again, these guys took advantage of the 8-kilometer drive length, so they could get this replace all their room phones that were some distance away, because it was a resort hotel with little cabins. could easily be reached by Vega. And then what this hotel in the Dominican Republic did, they wanted to connect to their PMS. They used a middleware called Char. And Char is one of our partners, and it's heavily integrated with PBxact. And these guys over at Char, they're a Spanish company based near Barcelona. They have got lots and lots of different integrations. So they support every hotel PMS system under the sun, really. So Char was installed, and it just makes PBxact talk fluently to the PMS system. So things like the maid can just hit a feature code on the phone and mark the room as clean and ready to go. If the room occupant makes a phone call, they can get the billing done. So it's really cool, right? It's lots of features that the Char supports. And how did we win this one? Really through a single vendor, through great interoperability, great pricing, awesome reliability, and we supported local languages. This was actually sold through a Spanish integrator, but as I said a couple of times, it was delivered in the Dominican Republic. And my last case study is a hotel that required perfect user experience. The UX is user experience and customer experience. It's a chain of hotels called the Fairview. They were under the cosh, right? They were building this hotel. I think it was newly built hotel. They had a short time scale. They wanted to improve customer experience. They wanted to improve guest experience, and they needed a system that could be scaled maybe up as far as 1,000 endpoints, and they wanted modern UC features. So what do these guys do? Again, they took PBxact, but they also, because it was newly built, they also took 1,000 of our Sangoma IP phones and put these into the hotel room. So instead of having now your analog phones, you've now got lovely, modern looking, cool looking, feature rich IP phones in every room. And they deployed the really high end IP phones for the staff and slightly less expensive IP phones to the rooms. One of the advantages here was the rollout was really easy because the auto provisioning, you plug the phone in, it finds its way to the PBX, it pulls down its PBxact, it pulls down its configuration, and hey presto, it is ready to go, which is really, really nice. The total cost of ownership, our full solution was very competitive and much lower than our competition, which is always nice to see. The pricing and sales model was pretty straightforward because a lot of our features are included in the base price. So you don't have to have a whole host of options, which sometimes can make quoting quite tricky. So it was very easy. And again, it was a partnership. So our team worked really closely with the IT team at the Fairview. It was really around a value proposition, right? We're not the cheapest solution out there. We're not the most expensive, but golly, we offer really, really great value and great feature richness. The reservation experience was also massively improved. The call queue for staff was there. That means you could, if you had busy times, you could bring in extra staff to jump into the queue, so guest inquiries are handled faster. We introduced music on hold, and they changed music on hold depending on the season. So Christmas have different thing than in the middle of the summer. They could tailor their announcements to what callers want to hear. Deal with after calls routing. So if they had people at home who needed to work at home, they could still route those calls to home, and the guest or the caller was none the wiser as to where any of the agents were sitting. And again, a single vendor, we supplied all of the equipment for a single site. So I had one throat to choke, one hand to shake to get any tech support if they needed help. So I think that brings us to just for me to sum up. I'm kind of 35 minutes in, so it's about perfect timing. So how would I sum up what I've been talking about for the last half an hour or so? I think here at Sangoma, one of the words our CEO uses a lot is optionality. I think we offer options, right? And the two I would say here is evolution versus revolution. So, you know, on the evolution side, it's, do you keep your room phones? Do you SIP enable your existing PBX? And on the revolution side, you can replace your entire system. You can go premise or cloud, and you can still keep those room phones if you want to. So there's lots and lots of different options here. And we support everything, right? We can offer analog gateways to convert your analog phones. We can offer digital gateways to SIP enable your PBX. We have premise UC, we have cloud UC. And the advantage we have, which I didn't probably make clear earlier, premise and cloud, typically our systems are the same on premise and cloud. So a lot of our competitors, their cloud offering is completely different than their premise offering. So, you know, you train on one and you want to sell the other, like, scratching your head thinking, oh, how do I configure this same feature on the cloud? Oh, it's different, I can't do it. For us, if you can do it on cloud, you can do it on prem. It's the same base firmware. And our VoIP phones are, you know, are out there. We're selling a lot of these. They're very nice, very high quality phones. And the part in purple, or I think Shan called that pink earlier. I think it's purple. I think she's wrong. We'd love to help you decide. We'd love to help you decide. You know, we're here to help. We've got decades of telecoms experience. I love nothing better than getting a whiteboard out and drawing a picture and a diagram on a whiteboard. And, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? How do we design our way around it? I may be running sales, but I'm a geek at heart. So I love to give advice. So please come and ask us questions or ask us for help. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking with us through to the end. Shan, do we have any questions that have come in?
Yeah, we've got several coming in, and I'm going to throw a question out to you, Simon. When's the last time you had an eye test? No, on the colours. So, as you may gather from us within Sangoma, marketing and sales have the same love relationship that I'm sure all of you guys have out there. Okay, so we've had a few questions. I'm going to try and integrate them into one because they all touch on the same subject. It's on integration with PMS. In particular, this customer uses Opera as their management system, and can we integrate with that?
Yep. In fact, I feel a bit silly now, Shan, because something we didn't put in the slideware. But yes, we have an Opera integration module. So yes, we can integrate directly into Oracle Opera. No problem at all. It's a system where you pay per room that you need to integrate. But yeah, it's cost effective. It works very well. I'm just working on a big implementation in Colombia of all places with Opera. So yeah, no, it's all good. It's there when you need it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I guess it's not just Opera, isn't it? There are other flavors available.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I said that. So we have a direct integration with Opera. If you want any other PMS system, you can use the char that I explained in the last use case, right? Char. My gosh, if you go to the char.es, they have got 101 different PMSs which they integrate with. So that's very cool. And then, you know, the other option, Shan, is we actually have a very simple, well, not very simple, we have a simple PMS system called Sangoma Property Manager that's built into PBxact. And for small, like guest houses or B&Bs up to 10 rooms, it's completely free of charge. So it's built into PBxact and free PBX. At no cost. If you want more than 10 rooms, we do charge a little bit for that, but that's also something for you know, perhaps a more simple implementation. That's a great option as well.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. So next one is they've got, I'm guessing there'll be a suite rather than a room, and there's multiple phones in the bedroom. Can we still use only one gateway, or do we have to buy several gateways?
Yep, it's just like assuming they've all got the same phone number associated with them, which I would think, you know, if it's room 102, then all phones would ring if you call the suite. Yep, just like your old, if you remember having a phone at home, just like your old phone at home, you can connect as many. There's a very complicated formula, which I'm not going to go into, called the ringer equivalent number, the REN and the drive length. Let's not bore everybody though. I could natter on about this for hours, Shan, but I'm not going to.
I know you can.
Yes.
Stop.
Yeah, effectively, the simple answer is yes. You can connect multiple phones to one port of a Vega Gateway, and then all of those phones would ring if that suite is rung from the front desk. Yep, no problem.
Okay. So you've obviously got your fans on there who want to geek out with you. This is a marketing person asking this question. Not a clue what it means. Does the gateway support MWI?
Oh, MWI.
Oh, shush.
Message waiting indicator. So yeah, again, it's something I touched on earlier was, I think I mentioned we see voicemail blasts, right? So I think my example was Zumba I think I invented a new sport which is called Zumba in a swimming pool. Anyway, if my new sport of aquatic Zumba takes off and you need to advertise that to your guests, you send them a voicemail, and then how does a guest know they've got a voicemail? They know because the neon light is lit up on their phone in the bedroom. So they pick it up and they hear a voicemail and they answer it. So that's what message rating indicator is. We have got a few different options for this. So yes, the phone supports message rating indicator. We can light up the neon lamp on the phone to tell a guest that they have a voicemail waiting.
Cool. And I think in the interest of time, there are a few others, but we will get back to you individually on those ones. But other than that, just either email us, contact your local Sangoma partner if you're there, or contact any of us. We're always free to help, and we can, talk. And we'll let Simon geek out and talk into depths with this stuff. But I would just like to say thank you, everyone. It's one of our better webinars. Sorry for the little technical hitch at the start, but we'll hopefully see you in a few weeks' time for our next one.
Lovely. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Shan, for hosting. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.